Most people walk through life on autopilot, accepting, absorbing, and adopting whatever the world throws at them. From a young age, we're taught to follow instructions, to memorize the answers, to raise our hands only when we're sure we're right. But what if I told you that this mindset is the biggest limitation you'll ever face? You see, the first step to thinking correctly is not to know more. It's to start questioning more. When was the last time you stopped and asked, why am I doing this? Oh, does this even make sense for me? We live in a world where information is everywhere, yet wisdom is rare. That's because too many because when people accept what they hear without understanding why it's true, or even if it's true at all. The moment you stop questioning is the moment you stop growing. And in a world that's constantly evolving, if you're not growing, you're falling behind. Think about how we're educated. Most systems reward obedience, not originality. They tell you there's one right answer, one correct method, one safe path. But in reality, the people who truly succeed, are the ones who ask different questions. They look at a problem and don't say, how do I solve this the standard way? They say, is this even the right problem to solve? That shift alone is powerful. You must train your mind to challenge everything, not with arrogance, but with curiosity. Don't accept opinions as facts, no matter who they come from. Don't follow traditions blindly, just because they've been around for generations. The moment you begin to question the world around you, you start to take control of your thoughts. You no longer become a follower of ideas. You become a creator of them. Some of the greatest innovations, companies, and movements started because someone dared to say, this doesn't make sense. They questioned the old way and imagined a new one. That kind of thinking doesn't come from memorizing rules. It comes from observing the world deeply, asking tough questions, and being brave enough to challenge what's considered normal. But here's the truth. Questioning isn't easy. It makes people uncomfortable. It can isolate you. You might be labeled rebellious, stubborn, or even naive. But that discomfort, that's a sign you're growing. That's a sign you're breaking free from mental programming. When you begin to think this way, The world won't always clap for you, but over time, it will respect you. Because original thinkers are rare, and rare things always have value. Start with the small things. When you scroll social media, ask yourself, why am I consuming this? When someone gives you advice, ask, does this align with my goals? When society tells you to chase a specific career, buy a certain car, or live a particular lifestyle, pause and ask, is this what I want, or what I've been told to want? These little questions are where correct thinking begins. Because the goal is not to reject everything. That's just rebellion. The goal is to understand deeply. To say, I accept this because I've examined it myself, not because someone told me to. That's ownership. That's power. And that's how transformation happens, not from copying others, but from building a mind of your own. So don't accept, understand. Question not to destroy, but to discover. The quality of your questions will always determine the quality of your thinking. And the quality of your thinking will determine the quality of your life. Failure. Just the word alone is enough to make most people flinch. It's wrapped in shame, disappointment, and the fear of being seen as less. But the truth is, failure is not your enemy. It's your most honest and effective teacher. And if you can learn to think correctly, you'll begin to see failure not as defeat, but as data, feedback, a mirror reflecting back what needs to change, improve, or evolve. Most people take failure personally. They attach it to their identity. I failed quickly becomes, I am a failure. And that single thought begins to rot every part of their confidence. But this is where thinking correctly makes all the difference. When you separate your self-worth from your outcomes, you give yourself the freedom to grow. You realize that just because every company's I didn't work doesn't mean you are broken. It means the method didn't fit the mission, or maybe the timing wasn't right. Either way, it's not the end. It's just more information. Every mistake has a lesson built into it. But the only way you'll extract that lesson is by thinking clearly, not emotionally. When we fail, we tend to react. Anger, sadness, self-pity. But reacting won't teach you anything. Reflection will. Sit down and ask yourself, what did I overlook? What could I have done better? what patterns keep repeating. That's when failure becomes fuel. Because now it's not just something that happened to you. It's something that's shaping you. People often look at successful individuals and imagine their path was smooth. What they don't see are the hundreds of rejections, the sleepless nights, the lost deals, the bad decisions. The only difference is that those individuals didn't stop. They didn't let one failed attempt define their future. Instead, they gathered data, they adjusted, they improved, and they moved forward with more insight than before. This way of thinking flips the script. Instead of being afraid of failure, you begin to expect it, not because you want to fail, but because you know it's part of the process. No one becomes great by only winning. You become great by losing, learning, and coming back sharper. That's where the edge is. Think of a scientist running an experiment. If it fails, they don't take it personally. They don't cry in a corner. They write it down, analyze the variables, and prepare for another test. That's how correct thinkers treat life. Every attempt is a hypothesis. Every outcome is data. And every failure is simply a necessary step toward discovery. If you're not failing at something, you're probably not trying anything new. Playing it safe might protect your ego, but it will cost you growth. You'll end up living in a loop of comfort, never pushing your limits, never finding out what you're truly capable of. And here's the thing, the pain of failure lasts a moment. The regret of never trying lasts a lifetime. What thinking correctly demands from you is courage. The courage to fail and the strength to see it not as a closed door, but a signpost pointing toward a better direction. Every time you fall, you gather more wisdom. Every misstep brings more clarity. The more you fail, the more patterns you begin to notice. And soon, you're not just reacting to life, you're shaping it. So don't hide from failure. Use it. Let it teach you, mold you, and refine you. Because in the end, it's not the failure that defines you. It's how you choose to think about it that will shape the rest of your journey. Most people spend their entire lives trying to upgrade their phones, their wardrobes, their homes. But they never think about upgrading the one thing that determines all of it, their mind. The way you think, the way you respond, the way you analyze and create, none of that is fixed. Your mind is not something you're stuck with. It's something you can train. Just like your body, your brain gets stronger with effort, repetition, and deliberate practice. But here's the problem. Most people never commit to mental training. They consume without reflecting. They talk without listening. They react without thinking. And then they wonder why their life feels stuck. The truth is, you can't think correctly if you never train your mind to do so. Just like a weakness to every of my, just like a weight, lift heavy weight. An untrained mind can't handle heavy problems. It breaks under pressure, collapses under criticism, and panics when things get tough. But when you discipline your thinking daily, when you consistently challenge your thoughts, sharpen your focus, and strengthen your mindset, you become mentally unshakable. Training your mind doesn't require fancy tools. It requires consistency. It starts with what you feed it. Are you filling your brain with distractions or with knowledge? Are you scrolling endlessly or reading something that challenges you to grow? It's not about spending hours with your nose in a book. It's about intention. 10 minutes of deep reading followed by reflection is more powerful than an hour of passive consumption, because it's not just about learning. It's about learning how to think about what you learn. Writing is another powerful tool most people overlook. When you write, you're not just recording thoughts. You're organizing them. You're giving structure to chaos. That habit forces your brain to slow down and examine its own logic. Even a short journal entry at the end of the day. What you thought, what you learned, where you struggled, can dramatically increase your mental clarity. And clarity is the first step toward making better decisions. And then there's conversation, the gym of real-time thinking. Surround yourself with people who challenge your views. Debate ideas. Ask questions. Be open enough to learn, but strong enough to defend your values. Too many people avoid hard conversations because they're uncomfortable. But that discomfort is where growth lives. When your ideas are tested, they either break or become stronger. And both outcomes are progress. The way you respond to challenges is also a reflection of how well trained your mind is. A strong mind doesn't crumble when plans fail. it adapts. A trained a trained thinker doesn't drown in overthinking. They analyze and act. They're not perfect, but they are prepared. They've practiced handling setbacks. They've rehearsed patience, resilience, and focus. And when the real challenges come, and they always do, those mental reps make all the difference. But none of this happens by accident. Just like you won't get in shape by watching fitness videos, you won't get mentally strong just by hearing motivational words. You have to do the work. Train your focus by eliminating distractions. Train your patience by delaying gratification. Train your creativity by solving problems. Train your discipline by doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like it. The life you want isn't waiting for you in some distant future. It's waiting behind the mindset you haven't built yet. And building that mindset starts with the commitment to train your mind every single day. Because when your thinking becomes sharper, your path becomes clearer, and your results become unstoppable. Companies to every of my. One of the most important shifts you'll ever make in your life is learning to stop thinking like everyone else. Most people are stuck in short-term thinking. They want it now. The success, the comfort, the recognition, the results. They chase speed instead of depth, applause instead of purpose. But correct thinking demands something very different. It demands patience. It demands discipline. It demands that you zoom out, see the big picture, and commit to the long game. If you can train your mind to think long term in a world addicted to quick fixes, you will immediately separate yourself from the majority. Because the truth is, everything meaningful takes time. Success takes time. Mastery takes time. Real growth takes time. But most people give up before they've even given themselves a real chance. They try something for a week, a month, maybe even a year. And when they don't see instant results, they walk away, telling themselves it didn't work. But what if it wasn't that it didn't work? What if you just didn't wait long enough? Every tree that bears fruit had to spend years growing roots you couldn't see. Your journey is no different. The grind, the late nights, the rejection, the practice, those are your roots. And when you embrace long-term thinking, you stop being obsessed with looking successful and start focusing on becoming valuable. Because the rewards that last are the ones built with time, effort, and vision. Long-term thinkers know how to delay gratification. They know that saying no now can create better yeses later. They understand that missing out on weekend fun to build a business or study for a degree isn't sacrifice, it's strategy. You're not losing anything, you're investing it. And the return on that investment, it's freedom, it's options. It's knowing that while others were looking for shortcuts, you were building something unshakable. But it's not just about time, it's about direction. Correct thinking means being willing to put in consistent effort, even when the finish line feels far away. It means trusting the process when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, and when the results are invisible. Because those are the moments that truly define who you are. Anyone can show up when it's easy, when the momentum is high. But can you stay the course when progress is slow? Can you stay loyal to your vision when the rewards haven't arrived yet? Long-term thinking also protects you from emotional decisions. It gives you perspective. You stop overreacting to failure because you know it's just one step in a much longer journey. You stop chasing every trend or comparing your path to someone else's, because you're building something that's meant to last, not just look impressive in the short term. When you think long term, you stop needing instant validation. Your confidence comes from the work, not the praise. And there's a kind of peace in that, a quiet power, because while others burn out trying to sprint toward results, you're pacing yourself with clarity and purpose. You know where you're going, and more importantly, you know why you're going there. So if you're feeling behind, if you're doubting your path, if you're tempted to quit because it's taking too long, breathe. Zoom out. Think bigger. The work you're doing might not show its value today. But if you stay consistent, if you stay patient, it will. Don't rush the process. Respect it. Because success is not owned by the fastest. It's earned by the most consistent. Most people limit themselves before the world ever does. Not because they aren't capable, but because their thinking is trapped inside invisible walls built by fear, doubt, and past experiences. Instead of seeing what's possible. They obsess over what could go wrong. They fixate on the risks, the difficulties, the unknowns. And when your mind is trained to only see problems, you begin to live as if you're powerless. That's why correct thinking is so crucial. It shifts your focus from limitations to possibilities. And when that shift happens, your entire life changes. The mind has an incredible ability to either create obstacles or open doors. It's not your environment, your resources, or your background that hold you back. It's how you see yourself and the world around you. When you constantly say things like, I can't, it's too hard, or that's not for people like me, you are building a mental cage. And the most dangerous part, that cage is invisible. You can't fight what you don't even realize is holding you. Correct thinking doesn't ignore problems. It simply refuses to be defined by them. It looks at obstacles and asks, what can I learn from this? It faces uncertainty and says, what's one step I can take? It replaces fear with curiosity. That's the difference. The average mind stops at the first sign of difficulty. The trained mind sees difficulty as part of the process. The people who achieve greatness, who innovate, who rise above the noise, they all have one thing in common. They don't let their current reality limit their future vision. They think in possibilities. They dare to imagine something better. And then, they don't just dream. They take action, no matter how small, because even a little momentum fuels belief. This mindset isn't about being blindly optimistic. It's about choosing to focus on what can be done instead of what can't. When you're hit with a setback, you can either complain or adjust. When you face rejection, you can either take it personally or use it as a signal to improve. That choice is always yours. You're not as stuck as you think. You're just stuck a pattern of thinking that says you are. Every breakthrough begins with the question, what if? What if I tried a different approach? What if this failure is the exact lesson I need? What if I am capable of more than I've been told? Asking those questions doesn't guarantee an easy path, but it opens one. And sometimes all you need is the courage to start asking. Your thoughts shape your reality far more than your circumstances ever will. If you believe everything is impossible, you won't even try. But if you believe there's a way, even if you don't see it, yet, you'll start looking. And eventually, looking leads to finding. It's not magic, it's set. So stop feeding your mind limitations. Start feeding it possibilities. Challenge every belief that says you're not good enough. Interrupt every thought that tells you it's too late. Because possibility is not just something you wait for. It's something you create through action, vision, and the refusal to settle for less than what you know is within you. The world won't always make room for you. But if you think in possibilities, you'll carve out your own space. And in doing so, you'll prove that the limits weren't real. They were just accepted. The people you choose to surround yourself with shape the way you think more than you realize. Your circle isn't just company. It's influence. It's reflection. It's a mirror held up to your mind, quietly molding your beliefs, your standards, and your vision for what's possible. And if you want to think correctly, you have to be intentional about who gets to speak into your life. Because the wrong voices can allure companies to dilute your potential just as fast as the right ones can amplify it. You see, your mind is always being fed. Every conversation, every interaction, every shared idea leaves a mark. If you're constantly around people who play it safe, who complain, who never challenge themselves, who see every risk as a threat, eventually you start thinking the same way, not because you chose it, but because you absorbed it. That's how silent and dangerous influence can be. It doesn't knock loudly. It creeps in. But when you're in the right environment, surrounded by driven, thoughtful, curious minds, something shifts. You start thinking bigger. You start asking better questions. You stop settling. You're no longer the smartest person in the room. And that's a gift, not a threat. Because iron sharpens iron. Being around those who challenge your thinking forces you to clarify your own. It pushes you beyond surface level ideas. It stretches your vision. It makes you better. And that's what you need if you're serious about growing. People who won't let you stay small. People who call you out when you make excuses. Who challenge your assumptions. Who inspire you not through words, but through action. Not every conversation needs to be about business, if strategy or goals. But the tone, the energy, the mindset of the mindset of those around you should be aligned with where you're going, not where you've been. It doesn't mean cutting everyone off or becoming cold and isolated. It means becoming selective. It means to every of my. It means protecting your mental space with the same intensity that you'd protect your most valuable asset, because it is. Sometimes growth isn't just about what you add to your life, but what you remove. Remove toxic conversations. Remove people who drain your focus. Remove environments that numb your ambition. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. You also have to recognize that growth demands exposure. Exposure to ideas you've never considered, to people who have taken different paths, to minds that stretch yours in directions you never thought about. That might mean seeking mentors even from a distance, through books, talks, interviews. It might mean joining communities where the standards are higher. Because if you want to elevate your thinking, you need to elevate your exposure. And it works in reverse too. Just as others shape you, you shape others. So be the kind of person who elevates the room. Be the one who challenges shallow thinking, who brings clarity when things are foggy, who encourages ambition when others doubt themselves. You don't have to be perfect, just committed to growth and open enough to share it. Your mind will always reflect the environment it's placed in. So place it somewhere where growth is normal, where discipline is admired, where ideas are explored, not judged. Surround yourself with thinkers who challenge you not to conform, but to evolve. Because in the end, your circle isn't just who you hang out with, it's who you become.